Morning, guys. Welcome to the current affairs session. We will be discussing all of the important topics that are necessary for UPSC, be it prelims or mains. Today, we are going to discuss the paper 23rd June. Right? So let us see what are there in the newspaper. There's Yoga Day on 21st June. I don't know why they are still. Oh, this 22nd June paper. My bad. All right. Firstly, we have this editorial. It says the challenge of India's digital sovereignty. Basically, as the editorial goes by, it is talking about India's digital sovereignty. It's not talking about independent sovereignty, it's talking about digital sovereignty, meaning that whenever we are doing something digital, right, we do not have control on our decisions because we are highly dependent on other technologies like Google or what do you call GPS and all of these systems which we are actually highly dependent on foreign countries. When we are highly dependent on foreign countries, there are things that they can actually do. For example, let's say have a trade dispute with USA, right? And USA wants to get back to us. It cannot do something monetarily because tariffs we are trying to stop. Okay, what will it do? It will cancel the usage of GPS. So that is why it is necessary for India to have a digital sovereignty. For India, as there is GPS, we have NAVIC. We have generated NAVIC so that we are less dependent on GPS more. So in this way, we have to be more individual and more sovereign is what this editorial is talking about. Okay, let us look at what and why everything is there. Right. Firstly, it says that uh, it talks about what is technological sovereignty. Technological sovereignty is nothing but where a country has control over critical critical digital infrastructure. Right. It's talking about where you have high amount of sovereignty in critical digital infrastructure. Only when you have control over your sovereign critical digital infrastructure, then things such as software or technologies, and without being vulnerable to the decisions of uh, other countries, then you are sovereign. That is called digital technological sovereignty. And the reason why this is important now, right? The reason why it is important now is because of two things, right? First thing is that there is this CCTV camera issue that has happened, right? There is this company called what do you call I think it's a Chinese company, right? It is a Chinese company. CCTVs were using Chinese malware, Chinese software. Okay, CCTVs were using Chinese software. As they were using Chinese software, they got access to all the digital footage of India's CCTV footage. You know, so what is happening? As there were uh, some defense CCTV footage or something or the other, which was related to secrets of India that were leaked due to usage of a Chinese software. That is the first thing, right? That is the first incident where digital sovereignty was more important. And the second incident was the Nayara Energy incident, right? Nayara Energy, Nayara Energy, where there was a dispute between European Union, right? And as there was a dispute between European Union, the company that is Nayara had been using cloud softwares of Microsoft and all. So as there was a dispute, European Union had cancelled all of the softwares. So that is what has happened, right? So this is how India's digital sovereignty has been reduced due to the usage of other people's softwares. So that is why we need a uh, uh, what do you call independent software system or independent methodology to maintain our sovereignty by taking everything in our hands. Otherwise, it will not be good for us. So that is the first thing that is saying. And the reasons why is because firstly, national security. Obviously, in any times, if you are depending on any other country, there is a risk of national security. So we have to do things in such a manner that the national security is reduced, be it defense, be it energy, be it data, be it anything, be it anything. We need to stop depending on foreign countries so that there is reduced amount of what national risk. That is the first aspect. And when it comes to the second aspect, we have many other things, right? Secondly, we have economic risk. Economic risk. We have banks. we have governments, all of them using different meals. For example, let's say if you are using Gmail, if you are using bank servers which are related to some foreign country, right? When all of this is happening, if they get back, our banks might collapse, our government emails might be tracked or what you call tricked. These things can happen. So that is why economic security, there is a high amount of economic risk as well. Other than economic risk, you also have strategic risk. Right? You have strategic risk. What is strategic risk? Strategic risk is nothing but where instead of using a military force, yes, instead of using a military force, they'll use something that you actually want, something that you have a high need of. Only when you have high need of something, then they can actually try to make things. For example, let's say USA and India are trading. Right? India needs USA as a trade partner. Without USA, India's exports will reduce rapidly. But India needs Russia as well for the oil. But when India is taking oil from the Russia, USA wants to stop Russia's power. So what will it do? It will impose more sanctions. So that way, India is getting disadvantaged. In the similar manner, whenever there is something they want to do, what they'll do is if you are using a software, let's say many of the software companies in India are using a particular X software that is based in USA, and USA wants to get back to India. It does not want to disrupt the trade. What will it do? It will stop the softwares. It will keep more restrictions so that India will not be, so that it will be very hard for India to use that particular software. This is how there can be a strategic risk, right? So first thing is national security, right? For example, let's say there is Kargil war. During the Kargil war, the GPS usage was very less because USA gave very less amount of what you call area for us to use GPS. So at that time, we were at a national risk. So that is why India also developed this thing called NAVIC. Okay. Second thing is economic risk. As we are talking about, economic risk is where banks can fail or the governments can fail due to the usage of software such as emails or cloud storage, all of these things. Then you have strategic risk where all the other countries, rather than using military force, they'll use this software force. Right? These are the things that can happen. And obviously, uh, why does the other thing that India is vulnerable, especially? Right? Why does the other thing that India is only vulnerable? Why? He's talking about the power transition theory. Power transition theory. Now, what is the power transition theory? Power transition theory is nothing but where a particular country which is actually trying to become or transition into a superpower. Let's say we are a global power, right? We are a global power. China, USA, Russia, all of these are what? Superpowers. Right? They are all superpowers. Now we are transcending from global power to superpower. That is what we are doing. Now, whenever a country is transcending or transforming from a global power to superpower, there is high likely chances that a superpower will try to contain this. Obviously, let's say there are five members who can control everything, and they can see that an next person will come and start controlling us as well. So, what will they do? The five members will together come and do something such that that person will not be able to be in a position to control us. So that is what even USA and China and all of these countries are doing. They're trying to contain us. That is why India is very vulnerable. So what does India have to do? India has to stop depending on all of this. That is why it's called sovereignty. Okay. So that is why the author thinks that India is especially very vulnerable to all of this. Now, what are the other countries doing? Like, if you actually see, it's not only India, but other countries are also trying to transition. When other countries are trying to transition, there are things that other countries are doing. For example, France. France is developing its own softwares. Denmark. Denmark is also doing things where it is exploring alternative softwares. Right? It's not only depending on one country's software, rather than it is exploring multiple softwares. Then you have other countries such as what you call Netherlands. What is Netherlands doing? Netherlands is reducing the reliance. It is reducing the reliance on foreign countries. So this is how all the other countries are also trying to tackle digital sovereignty. And this is what India also has to do. It has to do something so that it is not vulnerable to other people's attacks, because we are vulnerable to many things. If you actually see, we are vulnerable to trade, we are vulnerable to oil, we are vulnerable to disruption. Each and everything we are very vulnerable. And when a country is very vulnerable to these kind of things, it is very hard for that country to go from an X position to a Y position to control everything, because we are still under control. The only way you will be a superpower is by detaching from control. For example, if you see USA is not dependent on anyone. China is not dependent on anyone. Russia is not dependent on anyone. What does that mean? If you are not dependent on anyone, if you are able to sustain yourself without anyone's help, that's when you will become a superpower, right? So when India wants to become a superpower, it has to reduce the reliance on other countries. Only then it will become digitally sovereign. Now, what has India already achieved? India has done many things. India has brought in UPI. India has brought in Zoho. Zoho is for emails for governments. And then you have Razor Pay, sorry, RuPay. RuPay is also there. These are all what? These are all innovations of India to keep away from, to maintain digital sovereignty. To maintain India's digital sovereignty is what this has, right? And what are the solutions? Obviously, when all this is happening, we do have to bring in some solutions. Only when we bring in some solutions, then it will become better. What are the solutions? Firstly, we have to increase R&D. India's research and development fund is nearly 0.74% of GDP, whereas the global average is 2.07%. So we are way below the global average. So for us to increase or be self-reliant, we need to increase more what? Research and development. Okay, the first thing is we have to increase the high mode of research and development rather than depending on other countries. We have to fund more, right? And the second is making partnerships, private partnerships, that too with Indian countries, not other countries. Indian countries only, not other countries. If you do it with other countries, then again there's no digital sovereignty. Okay, so second thing is what you call private countries, I mean private partnership, and third one is trusted international partnerships, right? Where you know that that particular country will not try to stifle your growth, right? That is what this particular editorial is talking about. Next, we have a Trojan horse has breached the IITs. Now, this editorial is talking about this thing called Indian knowledge system. While the Indian knowledge system is actually very helpful for India, right? We have Ayurveda, we have many things. We have grammar, we have mathematics that has been coming from way long period. Right? We have all of these things, but the author is saying that while we have to promote Indian knowledge system, but it should not be pseudoscience. What is pseudoscience? Pseudoscience is nothing but science which is like science but is not science. That is called pseudoscience. So author is saying that we have to promote our Indian knowledge system, which is actually valuable, but you should not promote it in such a way that it is called as pseudoscience. Okay. Here, here we have the objectives of using Indian, what do you call, Indian knowledge system as objectives. First one is decolonization. Decolonization of India's education system. We have long been what you call exposed to the British or foreign education system, that we are highly dependent on that. Right? We are still marking based on merit, right? Due to which many people are getting behind. We are not focusing on quality. We are not focusing on what you call understanding. We are not focusing on what you call clarity. These are the things which we are not focusing on, and these things the US or the European people also focus on. They only focus on merit, if they have passed or if they have failed. They do not focus on whether they have learned or not. So that is one thing that is there. And the other thing is that when actually Britishers came to India, they didn't want us to learn. They only wanted us to pass or fail, because the administrative or the ecosystem was very competitive in nature. When the ecosystem is very competitive, we have to only see pass or fail. That is what the Britishers also did. They in their country they are focusing on quality. In USA they are focusing on quality, but in India they did not focus like that. They wanted to segregate those people who are not capable, those people who are capable. So they were very strict on the pass or fail thing. So as our Indian education started to evolve, we were very comfortable with the system, right? When we were comfortable with this system, we are focusing on this system. That is why we are focusing on a lot of pass and fail, and who has how many degrees. These are the things that we are focusing on. So we have to decolonize, right? That is the first objective of bringing in Indian knowledge system. And the second objective is that what you call reviving Indian and intellectual heritage of India, right? Reviving Indian intellectual heritage. And the third thing is what you call promoting interdisciplinary learning. Promoting interdisciplinary learning. That is what we need. Interdisciplinary is nothing but mixing multiple branches. Only when we mix multiple branches, we have more scope or more understanding. Then you have the fourth aspect where you are encouraging, right? Encouraging research into indigenous things. So these are the four reasons why we are actually promoting Indian knowledge system. One is that decolonization of education system. Second is intellectual heritage of India. Third is promoting interdisciplinary learning. And fourth thing is indigenous research in indigenous sciences. These are the four reasons why we are promoting Indian knowledge system. Good. Okay. It is absolutely good to promote Indian knowledge system because we are Indians and obviously we have to focus a lot on indigenous knowledge. Okay. But the thing is, colleges like IITs and many other highly prestigious colleges are using these Indian knowledge system in a different manner. Instead of using Panini's grammar, instead of using mathematics, instead of using Arthashastra, what are they focusing on? They are focusing on reincarnation, and there are many other things that they are actually focusing on, which are actually not that valuable. That is what the author is saying. The author is saying that the Indian knowledge system has shifted from the knowledge, right? It has shifted from the knowledge to reviving of pseudoscience. That is what the author is saying. So instead of doing what is genuinely Indian knowledge system, we are focusing on other things. What is the genuine Indian knowledge system? We have Panini's grammar, right? We have Panini's grammar. Then you have Nyaya school. Nyaya school is one of the philosophical schools of what you call Indian ancient society. And then you have Wood's steel metallurgy. One, two, three. These are the three things, and there are many more things. There are many more things that we have there. But what the author criticizes is that instead of doing all of this, we are focusing on what? Reincarnation. We're focusing on astrology. We are focusing on birth charts. Right? They are presenting mythology as history. When all of this is happening, you're not actually learning. See, I understand that all of the mythologies that are there, epics and mythologies that we have, are great for India. But until and unless that is science. What is science? Science is nothing but it follows a chronology. What is the chronology that science actually follows? Science actually follows a better chronology where it says that instead of only focusing on what you call uh, observation, right? It says that there's observation, then you have to verify, right? After verification, then you sorry, after observation you have hypothesis. After observing, you come up with a hypothesis. When you come up with a hypothesis, what do? You do an experiment. When you finish with an experiment, what is the next part? You collect evidence. When you collect evidence, you verify. After verification, you have a what you call independent reflection. Independent reflection. This is called science. They are saying that only when observation, hypothesis, experimentation, evidence, verification, and individual reflection is happening, that is called science. But when these all of things are not happening, then it's not called science. Then it's called pseudoscience. That is what the author is saying. And whenever we are focusing on the Indian knowledge system, we are focusing on all of this. We are not focusing on what you call uh, the observation or hypothesis. We are only focusing on hypothesis more. They're saying that let's take one child. They're saying that let's take one child and let's read that particular child's memory. One child is claiming that I have past memories. That person is saying that I was born in this particular area, and I was actually the son of this particular person, and this was my particular occupation. And if they correlated, or if there was a coincidence, they say that this person has reincarnated. And that is what they were actually doing. Instead of focusing on the things like Panini's grammar or the wood steel metallurgy, or things that are actually matter more and help contribute more to the economy, we're focusing more on what? Reincarnation, astrology, birth charts. These are the things that we are focusing on. That is why the author is also criticizing. They're saying that this is not what we want. This is not the Indian knowledge system. This is what it's not Indian knowledge system. This is called pseudoscience. This is what the author is saying. And the author is saying that uh, what do you call? He has criticized this particular Indian knowledge system on many fronts. First one is sample size. As I was saying, they will only pick one child, and based on that they'll create a hypothesis and say that this is in reincarnation, and everyone reincarnated. This is the hypothesis that they came up with. So that is first thing, is sample size. And second thing is confirmation bias. What is confirmation bias? Confirmation bias is nothing but, for some, let's say you believe in something. Okay, you believe in something, and whenever you are looking for something, you look at it from that point of view only. Okay, so when that happens, you will not see anything else. You'll only look for something that you believe or not. Let's say you believe in reincarnation. Okay, so what are the things that tell you whether it's reincarnation or not? If that person is actually, what, one, saying what the past thoughts are there, or if the claims that he's doing is right or not. These are the only things that you look for. You'll not look for anything else. You'll not look for the actual cause. You'll not look for the actual understanding. You'll not look for all of this. You'll only look for what you believe in. That is called confirmation bias. Okay, that is the reason the author has also criticized. Second thing is confirmation bias, and third thing is mixing science with belief. Right, mixing science with belief. And lastly, the author says that cultural influence. We have the only reason you believe in cultural, I mean reincarnation, is because the culture. If it wasn't for the culture, or if it wasn't for Buddha or Jainism, no one would believe in reincarnation, isn't it? All of the avatars, all of this is what? This is reincarnation. So culture is trying to show you something, that there is reincarnation. So your belief is mainly dependent on culture. So these are the four things why Indian knowledge system is not being promoted properly, is why, was what the author is saying. Okay, so that is all about this particular editorial, right? And the next one we have ASI transfers Rakhigarhi skeletons to NSI for a scientific investigation. Rakhigarhi is the most or the largest known Harappan site, right? Indus Valley civilization. Rakhigarhi. What are the things that have been found in Rakhigarhi? In Rakhigarhi, very important, and nearly 56 skeletons have been found. What can we do using these 56 skeletons? Right? They have found a skeleton of a woman that is nearly 4,600 years old. Right? It is nearly showing 4,600 years old skeletons of women. Through this, we can actually generate more knowledge regarding Indus Valley civilization, what kind of people were there, right? And what kind of food that they did, what kind of food that they had, what is the source of their food. These are the things that we can actually come up with. So what are the things that we can actually use through this? First one is paleopathology. Paleopathology is nothing but where you're trying to discover the kind of diseases that are there. Yeah, maybe arthritis, it may be tuberculosis, right? Then you have osteology. Osteology is nothing but study of bones. Through the study of bones, you can actually decipher the sex of the particular skeleton or the person, and you can determine the age, then you can determine the gender, then you can determine the trauma, meaning that if someone has actually hit that particular person with something, then you can actually say that this particular person died due to a trauma. So these are the things that we can actually do, and you can actually focus on how the things have happened in an Indus Valley civilization. And these skeletons have actually shown that the debate, the Aryan invasion debate, was not yet proven. Okay, we have a debate that Aryans have invaded the Indus Valley civilization. As they have invaded the Indus Valley civilization, the Indus Valley started to decline. That is what the debate is. So when we analyze this particular skeleton of this particular woman, it shows that Aryans have still not invaded, and there is no Aryan genes in that particular person. So it has still reduced the Aryan invasion debate. It has not completely stopped. It has reduced the efficacy of Aryan invasion debate. That's it. Okay. So that is why we have to remember Rakigari skeleton. Yeah. So that is all about today's current affairs. Hope you guys have learned a lot. Thank you guys. See you in the next class.